We've all heard it before. I was never a believer in the supernatural until next thing happened to me. Now I definitely know that without a doubt, there are strange things in the world, and I'll take back what I said. I always believed in things beyond us, much more capable than the limitations put on humanity by this unforgiving universe, the things that go from the sky, the things that make you question the rules of reality. Sometimes it's fun to imagine what the world would be like if they were extremely abundant or made themselves more known to us, if we were even able to coexist with such forces. Being a middle-aged man, I always ponder the idea about humanity making peace with the most beings of that nature and then assisting us in our never-ending, all the possible ways it can progress and move us forward. My guy can dream, I guess, because any person with a work in my knows that humans can barely get along with each other, and as to how we would get along with not only ourselves but forces that we don't understand. I just don't think it would go the way it, optimist, would hope for her. I live in a cabin outside the city, but nothing too crazy play. The Lord knows. I lack the knowledge in the skill to farm it has to, like someone like me would be motivated to move out into the woods to live by myself, and if he believes in such things, it is definitely a good question. Not all of it can be evil, right? And that question becomes even harder to answer after I tell you about my whole situation. Let's just say that it's kind of complicated, terrifying as well, but it's mostly play complicated. The forest that I live in. It doesn't belong to me, no, not even close. I would be an idiot to everything. But it does. In fact, it doesn't belong to any of my quotes and neighbors who live out here. This forest belongs to Peril, of course, and just saying that alone doesn't answer the dozens of potential questions that's probably running through your mind at the moment. So allow me to explain at least as fast as I can. To start off, I have no idea what a Peril looks like. Anyone who actually gets a glimpse of his appearance ends up in a tree with their skin turned off. You heard that, right? You want to know the details of a Peril's appearance? You can, but the cost is being turned into a science classroom decoration. I simply gave the entity the name Peril because, well, that's what he is. If you know what it looks like, it means you have no more than about 30 seconds left to live, less than half a minute before you end up as a piece of human licorice. And the police have come out here before looking for these so-called and missing people, after being hounded for so long by the locals in town to do so. Now that they try very hard to get to the bottom of it all, let's just say Peril isn't a sloppy killer by any means. He knows how to cover his tracks well. The bodies don't stay hung up in the trees for a very long, and I don't tell them a dang thing, because I would rather not end up on Peril's bad side. But if you're going to come live out here, you're going to have to follow the rules, unless you prefer being a piece of a Halloween showcase for a bit. And if you don't live here but you are still a big enough idiot to camp or hike in this area, I'll have a separate list for you. Do not print this list and bring it with you. Comprehended and understood it, you'll need to memorize it. You'll find out why in a second. Without further ado, here are the guidelines for those who want to live here and not die a horrific death. May God have mercy on you. And please note that sometimes rules may cross over or contradict. That's for a reason. Rule number 1, do not stay outside of the woods for more than 3 hours time. Be prepared and bring a way to keep track of the time. This world is not applied to those who do not live here. Rule number 2, went outside roaming the woods if you hear the sound of 4 twigs or branch of snapping and immediately look at the ground and nowhere else. Continue doing this for 3 minutes and no more and no less. Count if need be. Rule number 3, if you come across, do not scream, react strongly or try to report it. Trust me when I say that you don't want to end up like the idiots who called the police in the past and, for the love of God, Do not try to take a picture or video. Simply acknowledge the bodies casually and move on. It seems like a tall order, I know, but the alternative has been made clear. Rule number 4, if the police do arrive in, question you about anything strange or dangerous and, going on in the woods, simply play DOM. Tell them that you're just going about your business and you will let them know if you see anything weird or out of place. Rule number 5, if you're inside your cabinet, do not look out any other windows or exit the cabin. Rule number 6, try to make an attempt to keep your property clean and neat. Play regular basis. Peril seems to go for more unkempt areas of the woods. However, this does not fully guarantee your safety, so don't count on it completely. Rule number 7, do not attempt to warn others about peril, especially if they're already in my target. That just makes it 10 times worse for everyone involved. Okay, now that the rules for the folks who are brave enough to come play Pandora out of the way, let's get on to the rules for campers, hikers, and those who are only going to be here temporarily. Rule number 1, before entering the woods and make sure you're wearing at least one piece of jewelry. Think of this as a sort of a shield. You wouldn't try to enter a military base without clearance with you, and it's kind of like that, and it doesn't have to have any sorts of religious meaning or spell on it. Rule number 2, if you're going to use play fatty while in the woods, do not direct it toward any of the wilder plant life. Only met you do this to her other human beings sound too difficult for you. Then stay out. Rule number 3, and this made me applies to campers. Specifically during the night, you may hear the Chilean screams of those who were unfortunate enough to fall victim to peril. Do not attempt to follow the screams or help the victims. It is too late for that, and you'll be next if you add, I dare you. Rule number 4, another one for campers. If you wake up in the middle of the night and they're either rustling in the trees or anything in the distance, do not exit the campsite till this occurs. It could go on for several hours, so be prepared to adapt to these circumstances. If you're unlucky enough for this to happen, stay near the fire and keep your noise level low. Rule number 5, keep the landscape and tide. Do not rip up grass, snap branches off trees, and dig holes or kill any of the wildlife. Specifically that last one. That's a one-way ticket with payroll. This rule does not apply to those who live here, when they're just cleaning up their property, but hunting is illegal here anyway. So keep your guns at home. Now that those are squared away, I would just like to continue. There may be more rules that I am not yet figured out, and although I do not want to take the risk of going out there and figuring them out, I'll add them to either list if anything comes up. Another question that you may or may not have is, well, if you're not supposed to warn people about payroll, then why are you posting this online, which isn't a dumb thing to ask. And to that, my dear reader, I will say, it is simply because I am outside of the woods. Out of you should be okay. I've done this multiple times and I'm still kicking, but I seem to be the only person who was actually had the intuition to figure this out, and at least so far. Hopefully, this reaches some motivated people. It's going to take more than just a few cops to solve this. Believe me when I say that I've tried calling the before while outside of the woods. The dispatcher wasn't pleased. Her exact quote to me, "Please call someone else about your ghost story. You're wasting valuable time," and I guess this missing person case just went over their head. Either that or they don't care enough. You can take a wild guess as to which it is. The spoiler alert. It rhymes with wife CNN. Is there people who have come out here, campers and hikers alike, people who have no idea what they're getting themselves into when they arrive, and it can be a sad thing to watch, but that's just the reality of the situation. Oh, and before you ask why it is I haven't moved out, I honestly don't really have a good reason. I could continue to live my life pretty much normally as long as I follow the rules, even though I use the term normally loosely or have a couple of short pieces about those who are not as fortunate as I, about the folks who were either stupid, like to common sense, or simply ignorant, sometimes all the above. Not that they deserve to death so horrible. Take victim 1, for example, a group of teenage boys no older than 16 years old, from first glance poor kids anyway. This outfitted group of friends had come out here during a camping trip and, as you can imagine, they were being way too loud, disrespecting all the wildlife and nature around them. One of those young idiots even threw a rock at a squirrel in a tree and it hit him. The squirrel fell out of the tree and it died as a result. Naturally, this caught the attention. You can infer what came next. I was unaware of what had gone up to this point, and I have left the house to go for a short walk, making sure to be back with give me 3 hour time frame. Of course, I do know that it was sometime in the morning. So there I am, I simply strolling along the trees and path until I come to a small clearing, and clearing that was quite the popular campsite around here, but still a decent distance from my cabin, and it was made me for the adrenaline junkie types who love to test their luck by going to camp out and supposedly haunted places. And then I smelled it, that unforgiving, extensive iron, and immediately my heart sank, and I approached closer to the cleaner and tried to see what the damage is at this time around. Don't get me wrong when I say that there is a fine line between the bravery and stupidity. I think that I might have broken into, and I go slowly, trying to be elegant enough not to snap too many toys or break any branches, wanting to make sure that, no matter what, I don't do anything to upset, because he could be watching me at any time anywhere. In these words, can I make it close enough to the clearing to see the truly sickening sights in front of me, enough to make those with even the strongest of stomachs buckle? Underneath, pure and utter disguised, along 3 different trees hung each of these 6 boys upside down. Nothing remaining but and muscle tissue and bone. There is no blood on the ground below any of there. Like I said, Peril knows how to clean up now, and it's not meant to be funny, but nonetheless it was just as heart-shattering as it was horrifying to look at and to be optimistic, though at least it was me instead of their parents that had to see it, and I wish that I could tell them the truth. But when they inevitably come searching for their lost children out here, they'll be in danger. They have to be careful of the grieving. Parents aren't careful, and for good reason. Trust me when I say I used every single ounce of my strength to keep my vomit inside of me. I'm not going to borrow from a tree or a bush and get it. How do I know they were teenagers if they were so beat up? You might ask. Well, that's because one of their phones have been lying in the ground near the tents. Surprisingly, you can get signal out here, but don't try anything. Slack trust on the screen, write a text from what I assume to be one of their mother is. Here's what it said: enjoy your birthday trip with your buddies, Mikey, live it up and have you best at 15th Avenue. Your dad and I will be there to pick you up. In case you need it, just give us a call. It legitimately brought a tear to my eye, but what the heck was I going to do about it? Pretty much next to nothing, and that's what always got to me. Pause it. I wasn't nothing more than reporter when it came to the house, and if I could do more, I would. I know what the time that Paro would be back soon to retrieve the bodies and clean up what was left of his kill. One person had seen it and that was enough for him. I think that's how he works, but I'm not going to pretend to know everything about a mystery to me, let alone his twisted, dark and convoluted reasons for why he does these things, just to follow the rules and stay alive, as my mother. After staring at these sights for several minutes longer, I went back home to my cabin. When the police inevitably came around asking questions about the missing boys, I played dumb to follow my own protocol, only mentioning the fact that I thought that I had some teenagers and nothing further. I could have sworn, and neither of them even had the notepad ready to write down. And I'm getting off topic. Especially now that I've had some time to think about it, I know of the true reason. I haven't left this place in the dust. Why I haven't just gotten a plane ticket and flown to the polar opposite side of the planet. And there's a small part of me that enjoys living here now. Please don't take that as me being some depraved to say this or anything. It's not that at all. Play combination of coming up with the rules and figuring out how pair of works, and it makes me feel important, like I have a purpose, and it definitely beats just sitting at a desk job all day here only to go home to some crappy apartment which I'll probably end up dying it out of sheer boredom and lack of drive to do anything else. Anyway, I'm saving lives to the best of my ability. There is a small part of me that feels as if this is definitely going to come back to bite me in the butt sooner or later, but at least I'm making a big rapper than anyone else who lives in these woods, as well as local law enforcement. But you understand that by now. Trust me, I want to spill my guts to the whole world. I want to warn you, every single person who pulls up to the entrance of the path, to turn back immediately, but that would only mean their death and mine as well. This is truly my best option, and only one. I'm moving on. The second victim that I had ever come across was a 30-year-old woman by the name of Pia Dunley. Period. Supposedly come here to hike along the trail, just something as simple and quiet. There is only one problem, well, one other than coming here in the first place, that she decided to do it at night. Now, as to why someone thinks an idea like that is a good one, that is troubling, but I do give her the benefit of the doubt, though you think play missing person cases popping up would deter her? Apparently not. Maybe she just didn't do her research beforehand. Pia goes on her little night hike, starting at the entrance and making it about half a mile deep into the woods. Pretty much due about where I live, which is an important detail, by the way. Now, although he is not alive, for me to ask her what she had experienced. I know for a fact that they scream had woke me up at the middle of the night, opening shriek of a desperation in terror, obviously coming from her. I just laid her in bed listening to her wail and cry. Man didn't last for a long time, only about 10 seconds, but something like that. I must have felt like minutes, and to her, probably hours. I just couldn't move. I didn't exactly cry or shake, and horror, no. I just laid there staring at the wall of my bedroom as the events unfolded, and not far from outside of my cabin. You ever find a certain death scenes in movies hard to watch? You know what, the long and drawn out kills where the victim is screaming bloody murder as they're being brutally murdered by some deranged psychopath. Well, that's nothing in comparison to this, not even close. I just felt like it completely. And everyone has flaws, right? Well, at that moment I feel like I was made up of nothing but flies. But I do, trying to help with only make things worse. I just had to lay there and stay put and listen to the woman die one of those and most horrible day as possible. I want to tell others the loophole, the two informing people about peril, but I never see them outside of the woods and I have their information, the ones that I have it didn't want anything to do with it, and by that I mean the people who live with me here. They don't want to risk their own lives, matter what I just told you. You're probably thinking it's a majorly hypocritical for me to criticize the others for not helping, and I don't blame you because it kind of is. The P incident wasn't the only time I was awake during that night, not far from it. Last night, in fact, I was a jerk to wake by the sound of branches and couldn't have been more than a dozen feet away. Yet my eyes widened and my blood began to freeze the pattern of the snapping. It drew itself closer to my cabin. No crickets or anything else was there to go with it, just the eerie silence of the night. The rabbit stats begin heading toward the back door of the cabinet. I genuinely wish that I could describe you traveling to my body when I heard that. It's that feeling you get as a child when you have to take a trip down into the basement by yourself now. Obviously I didn't dare look out the window because at the time I thought there was only a small chance that I was going to live, and taking a peek at mystery supernatural murderer would only finish the job. Better safe than sorry. It was when I heard the pounding, echo, but not naturally enhanced, female voice behind me, something that even the best audio editing technology would have a hard time creating. That's when I truly thought that I would soon as the for himself and that peril wasn't the only thing out here to worry about. Keep quiet or it'll hear you. And I turned my fists up in a boxer stance as I expected to be attacked by the unknown entity. When I laid my eyes on the thing in front of me, my jaw swiftly plummeted straight to my shoes. Everything in my body seemed to see. My mind was running a mile, and in front of me was Pia Donnelly, but not a living body instead, and it was a ghost there. She was levitating a few inches off the ground, but that's not even mentioning the fact that I could quite literally see through her as well, like she was a hologram from a generic sci-fi movie. Thankfully she also had her skin back on it, or whatever you could call it in this context. One of my initial thoughts was to scream at her for one. Tell me about Parallel. But then I remembered that it was unlikely he would try and kill someone that was already dead. But I was still vulnerable. Thank God I was in a marked target at the time. That was the only thing saving me. I know you probably have a lot of questions, she said softly, bringing down her volume greatly. Yeah, we're way past it. Just questions. Reply to take a couple of steps back the room. What's the temperature drop getting to me? As we converted I could feel goosebumps for me and all over the surface of my skin. I was never a person who did well with the cold. What about apologies? She followed up. You know that in that thing, kill me while you slept safely in your bed. You have no idea what it's like to have your skin turn off while you're still alive, why you can still feel it. Every little nerve ending on fire. I would argue with sing one of these damn souls at how that it's worse than burning. Granted, I know there was a much you could have done in your own. She said a lightning or Tylenol. How did you know that I was sleeping safely in my bed? I asked. To which Pia seemed offended at the fact that that was my main concern, which admittedly was pretty insensitive, and he split few seconds between being snatched up and then being stripped like dead skin off someone. I saw you through your window. I saw your eyes open. You were just laying there staring off into space. Did you come back to haunt me? I shot back to make me pay for what I did, or a lack of doing anything. What did you even expect me to do? I'm not some freaking superhero, no, none of that. But maybe I should. She pauses briefly. I'm here to help you expose what's this thing that they need to let the world know what's going on here. My iPod is a question and brewing in me, but not just that. Excitement as well and a little bit of relief, if I'm being totally honest. Where are all the ghosts of the others, the victims of peril holding a ghostly hand up to her mouth? It's easier than saying the thing all the time, and don't you think I can't hear that? Well, actually like that movie a lot, so, and it's 50-50ths. Alright enough. I commanded, how do you even plan to stop peril? You don't even live here. I know way more about him than you. I need you to be careful with how and what you say, or I'm dead too. I said expose, not stop. But if we find a way to do so, that one and calm down. I literally just said that I wanted to help you. She punctuated, "Give me an unimpressed glance." "So sorry, I apologize, I'm just really on edge about all this." "Yeah, I can kind of tell the others." Then she suddenly levitated over in my direction, the temperature of the room plummeting even further than before. I actually approached me like I just stopped inside an eat freezer. "What are you doing?" I inquired, licking my lips awkwardly. "I'm going outside to look for peril," she replied without turning around, making sure that he's not close, and it doesn't matter how close he is. If you're in these woods, he can get to you. He knows that I'm here and that I'm in this cabin right now. As long as I follow the rules, he won't touch me here. But that doesn't mean you won't talk to me. The rules just punctuate. Well, considering that I'm talking to a ghost right now, no, it's really not that weird. Plus, I need to learn all that I can, but I can't really do that from a distance, and in this situation I responded casually, unbothered by her sarcasm. Also, if we're not supposed to warn others about peril and these words aren't the rules, technically you want another as well, sort of. I've been posting them online far away from the perimeter of the woods. I can't warn myself, but still watch what you say. Okay, she postulates it. Well, that ugly son of a gun is an all-knowing, or very good-looking, if anything. His face kind of reminds me of, and I jumped and sound my head back in attention, my eyes crazy with worry. "Shut up. Let me guess, I can't tell you what he looks like either." Pia grills. Instead of replying, I had an idea withdrawing the rule of shit for my nightstand, and I hate the effort. I march over to Pia, handing her the 2 less. She gives me an odd glance and then over the aura from her spiritual figure surrounding the material, solid object she wanted to interact with here, "And you just reminded me that I should make another rule for each sheet." I told her about how much flair, and that is when I went to the opposite side of my nightstand over to my admittedly small task, retrieving a pen and a papers and items that were scattered around its so dusty oak surface, everything from worn-out pencils to overused paper clips. But immediately before touching the pen to the paper, I remembered how dangerous it would be to write this rule down while still inside the woods. I wasn't exactly sure if this would somehow alert Parallel in any way, but I didn't want to take the chance. Dang it. I cursed, I can't write it down in here, got to wait until I can leave the woods. It's too much of a risk. Wait. But I thought it wouldn't matter because you're technically not wanting anyone. I just don't want to take any risks. I've never written any rules down to the woods before, and, unlike you, I still have about half my life left. I paused, comprehending what I just come out of my mouth. My bad, I didn't mean that. And he is simply rolled her eyes and response, unintentional slide. Send everything else aside. We don't have time to sit here and be petty all day. People are out there not only losing their lives, the lives of their loved ones, and they don't even know it. We're the only 2 well people that are able and willing to help. That I nodded at a short speech. But she was right. I had the knowledge and research, and she had the abilities and experience. It felt great to finally have someone who wanted to get this out there as much as I did. I didn't have to do it alone anymore. "Why exactly do you want to help me so much?" I asked, generally curious for the answer. "I have a son, an adopted son," she began hesitantly. "Right now he's 17 and he's a great kid, very athletic, and he loves the outdoors. He's been into sports, then she could walk. I'm mainly proud that he gets good grades anyway. He wanted to come through these particular woods and stay out here, for we'll no longer have any control over him, and he'll come to these words. I don't want him to end up like me or any of the others. We can't let it happen. I won't let it happen. In my head hung low as I approached to be a considering placing a hand on his shoulder before realizing the obvious. I'm sorry, too many innocent people that have been lost. I promise I will make sure your son makes it. I announced as sympathetically. Whatever it takes, and he's blood to me. I hate thinking about it. What his birth parents did to those pieces of crap. We need to solve this problem and we need to do it soon. Are you able to come with me to the cafe? I probed. I'm guessing no one else will be able to see. You know I'm stuck with that. The range of the what's is similar to peril. But I know how we can talk to each other outside of here. She paused, her look of utter sorrow and sadness shifting into one of the playful mischief. I'm guessing you heard of a Ouija board before. I raised an eyebrow, feeling the usual wrinkles form on my forehead as it was lifted. Don't you have to be someone close to me for that to work? Plus, it takes multiple people. Looking back, I'm not even really sure that it's worth it for a man who claims to have such faith. You think of these supernatural and far too simple terms. It only takes multiple people. If there is no spirits to communicate with and you're just trying to scare friends at a party, trust me, it's a good backup option in case we need to talk when you're not here, and I used to mess with them all the time with my friend group in high school. Most spirits just don't care about ordinary people, injustice Pia had earlier. I rolled my eyes, but it wasn't because I was proven wrong. No, she definitely made a valid point. She was just a pretty smug about it. But hey, it's not like I was all that much better now. I got next to no sleep that following night. The traffic of thoughts on my brain were far too heavy for me to hit the sack until it was too late. On the flip side, I probably would have had nightmares, don't worry. If I did so, I'm not really sure what to make of it. In the morning that followed, I took a detour on my way to the cafe in town to a Walmart to pick up a Ouija board. There is a whole shelf, dedicated to different times. I had no idea what really made the difference in each, so I simply chose the most generic looking one. As to why Walmart unless these things on itself and it's questionable, was little time to sit there thinking too much about it. I grabbed it off the rack, brought it to the checkout line along with a couple of pints of Ben and Jerry's, mainly just so I didn't look too hard, but also because I needed something to lift my spirits a bit. Things like this often weigh heavily, and ice cream helps everyone feel better. After that I was taken care of. I headed over to my next stop at the cafe, being careful enough to double check that I brought the rule sheets with me, but it wouldn't be too disastrous. But the person who found them and walked into the woods with them, however, well, you all know that what would happen. So maybe I was lowball in the bed, although if they wrote the wrong rules outside the area they'd be fine, provided they didn't show anyone else inside the woods. Nonetheless, I got to work right now. What's the one for those living there? Hopefully all of you can spread this message around when it's uploaded, but whatever you do, don't print physical copies and enter the forest with them. Let's be honest, if any important people actually see, this will all be written off as nothing but a conspiracy. Loving nutcases. It's up to us, the people, to fight this issue, and I retrieve my panda, hold on my reel sheets and to swiftly begin my tasks. Light in the pen, glide over the paper. Rule number 8, if you fall victim to Pearland your spirit to roams, the words do not describe his appearance to those that are still alive. You will obviously be unaffected, but they can still be harmed. What's that you got there to use with her newborn? Nice stuff. I had around play lady, which I assumed to be the waitress, was standing there with a hot pot of coffee in one hand, looking at me curiously amused by my sloppy handwriting. Oh sorry, just a work thing. I lied quickly, flipping my rule sheets over to the blank side. Now I want to do, thinking that I was even weirder than what she most likely already assumed. My Ouija board next to me, trying to set it to my right side in the booze play. It probably wasn't the best idea to bring it here now that I thought about it. Well, you've been working too hard and you haven't ordered anything. Is there anything I can get you? She quizzed too politely and she motioned to the coffee pot and she must have a new, because I hadn't seen her in her before. I shuffled my hands around to pick up the menu and quickly opening it up, only scanning it for a few seconds, kidding myself like I was actually going to get something other than my usual. Can I just get the bacon and eggs with a large coffee please? I requested, failing to hide haste in my voice. She smiled, writing down my simple order onto an iPad. I'm Sarah, by the way she tells me. But instead of turning around, she just stood there, her friend, quickly fading my frozen and not just out of a slight discomfort the temperature in the room and dropped, and my goosebumps had too. At first I just assumed that Pia had found a way to leave the woods and come here, but when I looked around the cafe she was nowhere in sight. Are you okay? I asked with hesitancy in my voice, gripping you out of my booth as I moved back a bit once again. Never frown on the increase. Her eyes wide and not comically, but more than enough to come off, is unsettling. I subtly play myself closer to the opposite side of the boat and as I scooched over here she kept herself still motionless. No one else in the cafe seemed to notice these strange phenomena. They all went on about their business meeting. The issue was mine and mine alone. Sarah approaches closer, leaning forward. Now I can smell the extension for perfume as each millisecond passes. You best be careful. You're not as nearly as smart as you think. I'll be watching you every single movie that you make. All it takes is one fatal slip up and I will tear every ounce of flesh from your bones while you scream for Dad to grip a hold of you. Don't think I'm oblivious to what you're trying to do. The forest is mine and always will be here. Her voice, and never believe dumb. I'd like someone with amnesia regaining a key memory coming as she responded, turning around and marching toward the kitchen, a man who I assumed to be the head chef, standing outside the door to it with an Irish. Stop screwing around and help me, make sure that we get these orders. As he followed Sarah into the kitchen, presumably to scold her further, I made a mental note in my head to tip her extra when I left. As for what was going through my head, and I was mainly considering dropping everything to go get across into some holy water, but from what I've seen and heard from so many others, it sounds like quite the gamble, with too low of a chance of actually working and worth the effort to probably not. Don't get me wrong, I know that little event was the work apparel. He was warning me, he knew what I was doing, but since I technically hadn't broken the rules, he couldn't go in for the kill. So I was safe for now, and it appears that I was slightly wrong about what I said before. He can influence things outside of the woods, but not drastically. That didn't mean my heart was beating my limited, though. Once my food got to me I scared to Donna, as now I need to take my sweet time and stay here any longer period. The opportunity to make me as next week, and here I was thinking he may be it, just maybe it. The guy had a soft spot for me here and the figures. And I began stress eating the Ben and Jerry's that I had gotten earlier on my way back home. I also didn't bother opening the Ouija board, a total waste of money, by the way, but the Ben and Jerry's was a nice little dessert. I parked my car outside the entrance to the woods and grabbed everything inside the truck and began to march over to the tree line in order to hide to my cabin, aggressively gripping the Ouija board case in a showcase of my frustration with its futility. Here I understandably I was on 10th and normal. I'm sure some Joe Bob type is going to be screaming for me to bring a gun and try to shoot. The reality all training as soon as I was past the tree line, all the sounds of nature and ceased being replaced with nothing but leaves crunching me with my feet and the wind passing by. That's never a good sign. Birds were always making noise around here. This silence itself was the furthest thing from relaxing. This was the bone-chilling, wrong kind of silence, the silence of a predator as stalk in its prey. Far from soothing, and anyway am I still pressed on attempting to whistle in order to give myself some semblance of comprehensive? It's shocking how much humans rely on sound to stay sane. Like most of my efforts involving these words, it was all in vain, especially when I heard the first weak snap from behind and the second, this time far more forcefully. I knew what was coming in there, who was coming, as it was the one that I had spent the most time memorizing, as it was the most likely wanted to pop up. Rule number 2, went outside roaming the woods. If you hear the sound of 4 twigs or branch of snapping and roll, immediately look at the ground and nowhere else to continue doing this for 3 minutes, no more, no less. Count of me B. I started my eyes to the ground. Asked the 4th branch. It's not. It was almost like I could feel peril breathing down my neck, despite the fact that I didn't hear anything after the branches had finished breaking. But I knew that he was there, desperately wanted me to mess up. Not being able to look, almost it felt worse than seeing him. Having no idea about the form of this monstrosity, tug counting to 180 already seems like a chore, but imagine having to do it while play death is quite literally standing behind you. Only then does it seem appropriate to complain. Every second will say century time seemed to have slowed down my. I was honestly wondering if, given the circumstances, that was actually the case. Nothing felt more strenuous than this. The threats of my doom so close, so tangible. All it takes is one glance at one peak and I die. I can smell your troubles. Your terror, Carol says in a voice so low, was still scratchy. It could only have been concocted by Lucifer himself. It's based on. Makes my hands shake vigorously as I thought to focus on my counting. I should take the skin of every man, every woman, and every child is step foot in these trees. It's almost like I could feel my legs turn to jelly and I was only 100 seconds deep into my account. Nearly another minute and a half left to go. You are so desperate to the music, your skin will be mine one day. You're worthless. Rules will only keep you alive for so long. Why don't you invite a relative over here, send him down, have a drink and warn them about me? Go ahead, I dare you. I bet they would be dying to know my true form, just as you are, you pathetic, inferior being. His tone was colder than the temperature of my blood during the encounter. Despite his self-proclaimed amusement, he didn't laugh, catalog or let out some villainous chuckle. He just silently enjoyed my English. If he possessed the middle finger, he was definitely give it to me. I only had 20 seconds left to go soon. Can you describe that? The way the words are left him. It was so casual, so nonchalant. He might as well be described in the process of making a PB&J. The worst part was the mental images in my head as he said it, describing the way his victims, bad for the mercy of God, as he ripped at their skin away, the way they can't scream and try to fight. He wanted me to know every little detail. But the universe I've been feeling that generous, the grueling, and horrendously torturous. 20 seconds as I did it and I looked back up, exhaling and extended as I believe. I can feel the adrenaline itself leaving my system, but not very quickly. If I was going to keep doing this, I needed to be clever. He knew what I was trying to accomplish and he was clearly aware that I was using loopholes, But I couldn't let this taunting me. He wanted to take me, to force me to give myself up, to get inside my own head and make sure that I created a situation for my own demise. I pointlessly tried to shake the existential dread of Phil in my lungs as I hiked forward through the trees, every single fight or flight alarm bell in my body going off, all the ones I was starting to think. These rules, that may not be enough, that my efforts were a few times and did nothing. But who was I play saving? Was that really going to expect people to read them online and memorize them, if they possibly come here? What if I had messed up somewhere along the road and then became responsible for someone's death? Maintaining optimism in situations like this are extremely difficult, because once you start asking yourself questions like that, the questions that make you want to give up, it hits hard. However, as I said before, and nothing comes without rest, even if resistance, in this case, is a sadistic cryptid who wants to give me a slow, agonizing death. I soon arrived at the back of the cabin, looking up to see PS standing in the second floor window, the light passing through her halo structure. It was pretty ominous. If I was being truthful, I like something you would see how to poltergeist. If it were anyone else's ghost, I would have turned to tail right then and there. This is already gave me enough to deal with as it is. I approached the front door, lifting my hand to grab the knob when the door is suddenly swung back inward as it began open from the inside, creaking weakly as it shifted. "You like it?" I heard Pia's voice answer my ears from behind. "I just learned how to do that today." I jumped in, spun around, laying my eyes on the sides of Pia casually levitating behind me, a friendly smile plastered on her face as we both looked each other, her face joyful and mine scrunched up, and I also learned how to teleport small distances. Maybe being dead isn't so bad. I wish I had Google's powers. I respond to stepping into the cabin, my mouth dry from the stress of the earlier events. "If you mess up and then you will." Kmart's sarcastic rebuttal, "As I've heard." I came back the fighting, a comical smile display what it all gone on. I found myself holding in a laugh at a club. Now screw it and let myself actually laugh. It was beyond a therapeutic, something I was in desperate need of, and to finally have it was extremely cathartic. In that moment I felt like a person again, not just some machine analyzing everything in my path. As my foot of joy begins to die down, Pia takes advantage of these situation. "You know you still owe me that apology, right?" she asks, crossing your arms as a stare. "Pastor, phantom body, make sure you don't get any ectoplasm on my floor." Never replied, dodging the question. As I begin to walk upstairs, Pia simply teleports in front of me. I had to keep moving, but I'm suddenly stopped dead in my tracks. Nothing I do works. Move me a 90 action and I try my hardest to fight it, but to no avail. What did you do?" I demanded it, and now genuinely frustrated. "Come on now, this isn't the time to be fooling around." "Basic telekinesis," she fires back. "Now are you going to give me my apology or what? How do you say that I'm sorry that I grown up?" Still trying to get myself out of her hold. "No, you said you were sorry because I was torn apart. You said yourself that there was nothing I could have done." I shot in return. "Yeah, but that doesn't mean I don't want the satisfaction," she announces, smiling playfully. "My girl, my listen to feet dirty." My eyes between Pi and the wall next to us, knowing that I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Of course she didn't have time. It was mostly a huge inconvenience. Is a forced apology really an apology? And I say softly, using wordplay in an attempt to escape. "You're telling me your mom never made you apologize as a child for something that stupid that you did?" She was his another good point argument that I wasn't able to come up with a counter to on Spotify. If you'll excuse me, Nitro, off moving to the side of these steps to continue walking. Can I finish my journey of the stairs? And I had it in my room is spreading my rule sheets out of my bed and examining them, being sure to double check what needed to be done, and coming into the cabin, I did notice that it was starting to get quite messy around my front porch, which I had moved up to being in the first priority, easily recalling to rule number 6. Try to make an attempt to keep your property clean and neat on a regular basis. Perils to go for more unkempt areas of the woods. However, this does not fully guarantee your safety, so don't count on it completely. Like it says, it's not a complete guarantee, but you got to do everything you can right. That's what I keep telling myself at this point. This time I was hesitant to step out of the cabinet. I didn't feel the strong presence of parallel while I was inside, so I was able to step out without it breaking rule number 5. Furthermore, I didn't know that she had, as I am here I was in March, but I was totally aware he wanted me to be. He was lying and way to sitting back comfortably as he let the time pass for me to make a wrong move. I initially assumed it was because so far I was the greatest threat to his cryptic nature that I have the most information on him, more than anyone else. I'll do then his appearance, of course, but who knew what I was missing? It almost flattered me that he was threatened by my scheming, not that I would say it to his face. Nonetheless, I did joke in. They asked if she could use her telekinesis to help me clean up outside. She of course declined, saying that I needed to keep taking care of myself. Once again, a fair point, integrity. Picked up all sorts of broken branches and twigs spread out across the grass, as well as making sure that I dusted off my front deck, which I was glad that I did, and it was starting to look like it had snowed all over it. While cleaning and doing nothing but mind in my business, I picked up a repetitive whipping and sound, a sound how many people are familiar with if you watch a lot of action movies. Looking up, there was the source, a helicopter that's had been flying past the area. I wanted to know what it might have been about. I stopped what I was doing it and moved over. The trees were slightly less dense, especially since it sounded it really close, flying much lower than helicopters it usually do. That's only 100 or so feet above the trees. And was these supposed to drop her? Completely black, and it's hilarious. But that wasn't the only thing. It was outfitted with machine guns at the front, as well as a couple of missile launchers. Being a military-grade vehicle, it was definitely built for combat. That much was obvious. But what really caught my attention was the people inside it, geared up with body armor, fully automatic weapons and night vision goggles. To these soldiers, I didn't have a clue as to what to call them. They didn't look like any military personnel that I had never seen or recognized, not in the slightest. They appeared like there was something in a much more private shading. Well, I looked for any symbols on their chopper or gear, but I didn't buy anything, not before they were out of range and my post online called the attention. Were they in some sort of weird government to deal with peril? As much as I would hope the government would do me a solid. This is the real world that only happens in fiction. I continue to clean out my property here. It was difficult to focus after what I had seen, so many questions that I know what would go unanswered, or so I thought. The way everything was going lately, I could feel something coming, something bad, and it was going to happen soon. I just didn't. Hey, can you use voice from near the front door and come inside? There's something. You got to see you. I dropped the rake and did it, she said, running up the front steps and throwing myself through the front door, paced into the other end of the first floor where my kitchen is located, and stopping when I saw something panic-worthy outside the back window. I think they're here for you. Peeling's over. It has been such a pessimist play. I can try and hold them off, but I don't know. I interrupted through some of the trees in the back of my cabin, or what appeared to be 9 or so of those strange black-suited as shady military personnel, and, just like the ones in the helicopter, they were armed to the teeth. There are assault rifles held friendly in front of them, looking down the scopes as they scan the area. Remember, gentlemen, the one in the front says, only use deadly force if absolutely necessary. We need him alive. And it wasn't only that, but each one had some sorts of strange cell phone shaped device, and each of their hands, using them, sweep the tree line a little by little. They continuously babe, making a low humming sound. God crap, I stuttered, Richie, my hands on my head and squeezing 2 different chunks on my hair, calm demeanor fading as a pro, to my own mind, for a solution. Go, you just got to go. P erupted urgently, her voice echoing throughout the house. I ran upstairs and grabbing my reel sheets, believe in the laptop behind, not wanting to be traced in the event that I got away and I didn't run out the door. When I came back down, they were beginning to surround the property. I would immediately be incapacitated or subdued to the moment. Is there any way you can teleport me to the edge of the woods, at least far enough for me to run to my car? I don't know, I've never teleported anyone with me before. She's damaged her telling, making it clear that she was unsure of herself. Well, you got to try it. I need to get out of here. And I was cut short by my front door being kicked down. 3 of these shady soldiers from outside immediately filed in the weapons that drained on me. One of them held out the alien-looking device they had been using to sweep the tree line, praised to over a ghostly hands into the air. All 3 of the soldiers were immediately flung vertically up against the ceiling via her telekinesis, smashing their backs into the wood and causing a few of the boards to snap on impact. 3 more of the mysterious soldiers quickly flooded their way into the cabin, taken the spots of react, play A, drowned the area of the room with white light like some sort of exotic flashbang. PS3 and her spiritual mass was sucked toward the device and she tried to fight it, but her efforts meant nothing. The device was far too powerful and she was nothing more than crumbs to a vacuum cleaner. I put my hands up in the air. My rule, she is a fall into the ground. Along my sides. The soldiers screamed for me to get on my knees and give him the situation and I had no choice. I know, Rec. Do you know what occurred after? It's not. Until I woke up and in unfamiliar room, completely white, with no windows. The place looked about as sterile as a spacecraft. Not a single stand or imperfection other than the table in the middle which I was sat at, and one end of the door to the room was as. What is the ceiling, the floor is and the walls? The only real reason I knew it was there was due to someone entering. A woman made her way in. Is it going to be around in early 40s? Her blonde hair done in a neat ponytail, a pair of glasses sitting on her face as she sat down with a smile, holding a binder in her left hand, and did I forget to mention she also had a lab coat on. Where the heck am I? I growled, making a useless attempt to move a simple pair of handcuffs keeping me restrained to my chair. Hello, Mr. 10. The woman responded cold. She never wanted. Are you going to answer my question or not? I asked you guys, the government or something. Did you see my post online? Because this isn't exactly the best way of helping my complaint motion into my handcuffed. And well, we did see your post, actually. The woman answer is both. I am the director, we're very grateful for all the wonderful information that you provided for us. Who the heck is the director? My fire back. Telling you now wouldn't matter, and telling you any of the names I wouldn't matter. Matter of fact. Well, doctor, I assume that's what you are. Can you tell me what you did with Pia? I demanded, and my conviction still passive, aggressive. We've had our supernatural department perform a ritual. She's been moved to where she needs to go, no longer on this planet. Lou, how do I do a brat proof to be useful after all? We'll break it down and use the materials for a future projects. The parts that can be wiped, it quite well if toyed with correctly. What do you want from me? My silence, I'm guessing that the woman smacks, almost like to let you know that it's your problem will be dealt with. It's been on our radar for quite some time now, and you're just now doing something about it. Where have you been sitting on your butt doing experiments all day? Christ, I project, violently, unable to contain my rage. People are dead and dying, and you just sit here in your fancy air conditioning playing with chemicals like it's Legos before. Much more visible without his goggles on. Drive west. The director wants the green light on utilizing the Sixtina for this operation. He's getting Nancy, yet he pronounces yes. I already told that idiot. That was the plan. Maybe mention that he needs a freaking hearing aid as well, leaving the room and slamming the door behind him, not even waiting for her to finish the insult. You have two options here. The woman now known to me as a Dr. West proclaims, we have seen your intelligence firsthand, the way that you study things, ask the right questions and go through all this intellectual trouble. My superiors and I are pleased with you, well, mostly them. You're not much of a fighter. But, brawn, isn't everything. I've been authorized to offer you a job as a researcher here, studying and analyzing unlikely creatures and entities. You'll be paid very well, I promise. Imagine what you could do with the advanced resources we have here to provide you with it. She goes on looking over a stack of papers in her body like she's reading off a script, which she technically was. And my other option, I interrogate, already possessed in an, do you have the answer? Well, to put it bluntly, will kill you. A bullet to the head will give you the peril. That is what you call the entity, correct? Wow. So either I work for them or die. I'm guessing everyone and their mother saw this coming. It's painfully obvious that if I were to take this job I would have to keep everything classified. I'm glad it's obvious, but what you've already posted can be. I didn't trust this lady Laura. Most of what she was saying, it was shady, and how much was obvious. They didn't seem like official government bodies, but that didn't mean it was completely out of the question, not to mention I would be going against a lot of my previous integrity in spite for people like this turning my back on my convictions. You said you would take care of the peril situation, I asked. Breaking me established silence of the realm. Yes, the doctor replied. That sounded impatient, the consequences of my stalling now becoming visible, and her expressions. And how do you plan to do that exactly? He's a monster, a demon, something not from this world. I don't even know what he is. How do you even kill something like that? You guys got square guns filled with holy water, and Dr. Westmere accent leaning forward slowly and placing her elbows on the table. That is classified and none your business, not yet. Anyway. The door swings open yet again, interrupting me already frustrated woman, the same soldier from before, the insane, his eyes now covered with what I assumed. We're not fishing here and we're heading out to 16 days in the back of the transport truck and the team is geared up. Should be back until then. A few hours, he says, his mannerisms rapid and his frantic. All right, just go and quit talking about it. West Sheridan cheese, do you guys need an invitation? do your jobs, exterminate the target and shut up. The soldier does, is told, and exits without standing there for another second. West. It turns back to me, rubbing her forehead, and pure annoyance. You're going to tell me what 16 is? I question. It's going to my eyes in order to say I want answers and I want them now. Listen here, you little Sheeran. Seriously, only for a sentence to be cut short by yours truly. All except, I announced bluntly, on one condition. I continue, pausing for only a slight momentum. Well, actually it's a couple, but it shouldn't be much trouble for you guys, considering what you've told me so far. West leans back in her chair, so utterly irritated by my shenanigans that she seems like she'll simply give up any second. You're in no position to make mads, but go ahead. I know you have her information. I mean, you guys are also supposed to be smart, right, doing your research on these sorts of things. Well, here's what I'm asking, that you guys that did the ritual one, and I want you to find her adopted son and anonymously give him enough money to get through college. Look through records, ask around, do whatever you got to do, and I promise I will accept your offer and I won't try anything funny here. I will work here as hard as I can until I die. Drive. West leans forward in her chair, giving me the look that says you can't be serious right now, and she claps her hands together and I continue. I want all the victims' families compensated properly, Bible things to them if necessary. You can keep these, you can smell. But if you attempt to spill the word of this to the public, all personally, make sure that you die the most painful death possible. Maybe even run some pain tolerance experiments on you before killing the lights upstairs. The way you say it doesn't make it sound like a yes, I chimed in, tilt in my head to further my point. Fine, I'll talk to my superiors, but I just know some of that money is going to be coming from the first year of your salary. The doctor barks, and that's fine with me. You really think I expected you to be actually generous for the sake of being generous, right? Play reminder to sarcastically. The door to the room opens yet again. A man around my age, dressed in a suit and tie, walks in, stopping right at the middle section of the table between Drive West and I. His suit was just as pristine as the rest of the room. I could have sworn there wasn't a single wrinkle in the fabric. So you're the man we've been keeping a close eye on, he said in a smile. It's nice to meet you. I'm tired of the director of operations around here. My eyes started back and forth between the two of them. Everything was happening so fast, with so many decisions and so little time. As much as I didn't actually want to work for them, I know, except in this job will not only allow me to continue to help others in the future, but the families whose relatives were victims of peril will be given what they deserve. As for I, wasn't too sad. She was a nice present around, that much was true. But at least she moved on and is no longer trapped here on Earth. So in the end it was a positive thing. Now I guess it could have also thanked them for using the resources to get rid of peril, even though it should have done much sooner. I turned my attention back over to Ted, aka the director. His welcome to me. Mannerism seemed to much more authentic than Drive West did, but there was still that underlying play sense of deception laying beneath the surface, and we stared each other down before I said the two words that would change my life forever. And going forward, my man, Ted, smirked girls wider this time, his joy seeming more genuine. Well then, he pauses dramatically. Welcome to the agency.